Today's recipe is something super delicious. It's a green lasagna with spinach and zucchini. It has a couple of steps, but trust me, it's worth it. The first thing that you want to do is get your spinach ready. So I'm going to saute this spinach. It's 2 pounds of spinach with 1 small onion, finely chopped. Now my onion was kind of medium, so I'm probably only going to use half of it because a small onion would yield just about a cup, and I don't want it to be overwhelmingly oniony. Saute that in a tablespoon of olive oil. So I have a large pot, and you'll see why in a few minutes, because to saute all that spinach, you need something kind of deep. Add your onion, half a teaspoon of salt, and just some pepper. Give that a stir. So this is 2 pounds of spinach, and you want to cook it with the onions. You may need to add the spinach a few handfuls at a time and cook it, stirring until they wilt down. Obviously, it looks like a ton, but you'll see when it cooks, and I've said this before, spinach really cooks down to almost nothing. So just add a couple handfuls, stir it around, add a few more handfuls, and eventually you'll fit all of your spinach into the pot. So it's cooked down quite a bit. I'm gonna add a little bit more spinach. This is baby spinach. You can use any spinach that you want, really. The big flat leaf spinach, the curly leaf spinach. You're just gonna need a total of about 3 cups of cooked and squeezed out spinach. So this looks good. Turn off your stove. You're gonna wanna squeeze out the liquid, which I told you. I wanna show you one thing. This is a ricer. I don't know if you have one. It's kind of a specialty tool, and we use it a lot to make mashed potatoes. But it's also really, really good at squeezing liquid out of vegetables like zucchini if you're making zucchini bread, and spinach. Let me show you how efficient it is. You can also use a strainer set into a bowl, or a sieve, I guess. This is really great. It works so well. I mean, you have to do it in batches, obviously, but it gets out more liquid than anything with not a lot of work. Do you see all the liquid that is coming out? I'm sure that you would not be getting that much out if you were doing it by hand. Actually, I don't know. Maybe you're a lot stronger than me. It's possible. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to make a creamy bechamel sauce. So for the bechamel, it's a creamy sauce made with milk, and it gets thickened with a roux. So I have 4 tablespoons of butter here in my pan. So you want to melt your butter and add 4 tablespoons of flour. You want to probably whisk it and cook it until it no longer has a raw flour smell. That usually takes between 30 seconds and a minute. This is a blonde roux, so you're not trying to get any color, you just don't want it to taste raw. So then what you want to do is whisk in 4 cups of milk. Start a little bit at a time so that you can make sure it stays smooth. Once you've added a good amount of the milk and it's smoothed out, then you can add it more quickly. But in the very beginning, I like to add just a couple of splashes at a time, whisk until it's smooth, and then add some more. It clumps up a little bit, and if you add all of your milk too quickly, then those clumps will just stay in your sauce, and you want a nice smooth sauce. You can see it's already starting to smooth out just a little bit, so now I feel more confident to add the rest of my milk, so I'll just whisk that in. And then in order for the flour to activate and thicken milk, you need to bring this to a boil. It also gets seasoned with some nutmeg. I'm just gonna grate that right in. And salt and pepper, about a teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. So you'll want to make sure that you're continually whisking this as it's coming to a boil, because there's flour in here. It may tend to stick on the bottom of the pot, and you don't want that. So just maybe not constantly, but pretty frequently you're going to want to be whisking. This has come to a boil. That means the flour will have activated. Also, I'm a little worried it's going to boil over. My pot, just the right size. Be careful, because milk can boil over and it's very sticky on your stove. Just let it boil or simmer at least for like a minute, just to make sure all of the starch is activated, because that's the thickener for your sauce. And then you're gonna stir in a cup of grated Parmesan cheese. I'm just gonna let this cool down for a minute or two before I do that. This is a relatively thin bechamel, and I made it that way because I'm using no-cook pasta noodles, and you need a little bit of extra moisture in there in order to sort of hydrate them as they cook. So this sauce is a little thinner than you might expect a normal bechamel to be. I just added 1 cup of grated Parmesan cheese, and then you just need to cool this down before you use it. The last thing you need to do before you're ready to assemble your lasagna is cook some zucchini. If you have leftover cooked zucchini or really any kind of vegetable that you like, broccoli would work here, or really any kind of roasted vegetable, you can use those instead and you don't have to do this step. I'm cutting up 3 zucchini into planks. This is a good shape because of the shape of the lasagna, but like I said, if you have leftover vegetables and you want to use those, don't worry about the shape. You're just going to want to get some layers of vegetable in there, and it can be anything that you really want. Heat some oil in a skillet, and you're going to saute the zucchini, and you just want to cook them until they're tender and a little golden brown on each side, about a couple of minutes per side. These are turning golden. They don't need to be too brown, and you don't want them to get too mushy because remember, they're going to cook more once they're in the lasagna. So make them, having a hard time picking this one up. There we go. As they cook and get tender, you can transfer them to a paper towel lined baking sheet just to drain. You don't want there to be too much additional liquid in your lasagna, and you can use a total of about 3 tablespoons of olive oil for the batches. As each batch is done, you take them out, put them on your paper towel lined baking sheet, and you're ready to go. All of this stuff, by the way, can be done ahead of time. So if you want to, say, prep to make your lasagna one day and then assemble it the next day, you totally can do that. And as with most lasagnas, you can also assemble it and then bake it on another day. To assemble your lasagna, you take your cooled bechamel, about a cup in the bottom of a 9x13 pan. Spread it out. If it doesn't spread on its own, you can tilt, spread, whatever works for you. And as I mentioned, I'm using 8 ounces of no-boil lasagna. Lay those on top of your sauce. You may need to break them in order to have full coverage of the pan, and that's okay. You can do that. Oops. Oh, also they can be slightly overlapping. I forgot to mention that. Then another cup of the bechamel on top of that. So the bechamel is the liquid that's going to cook your noodles, and also the liquid from the spinach and the zucchini, though most of that liquid got squeezed out by your strong arms. About half of the spinach goes on top. I'm always amazed, even though I've been cooking for years and years and years, I'm always amazed at how much spinach shrinks down, as well as other greens. Another layer of noodles. So these I'm just going to overlap straight down the center. They do expand a little bit, so you don't need to worry about full coverage here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then another cup of the bechamel. The remainder of the spinach. The final noodles, it's another 5. The remainder of the bechamel. Spread that out. And then that zucchini, that goes on now. Cover the top of your lasagna with your zucchini. Like I said, other vegetables would work. I mean, the zucchini are really beautiful and green and delightful, but you can certainly try other things if you'd like. And then I have 6 ounces of mozzarella cheese, not the fresh, the regular, I guess they call it low moisture mozzarella cheese. 1/3 cup of grated pecorino romano. You could also do another 1/3 cup of parm because that's what we used earlier. So if you don't want to get 2 cheeses, you can do that. But this is 3 cheeses altogether, which is kind of nice. Cover it up with foil and have your oven at 375 degrees. This needs to bake for 45 minutes covered, and then another 15 minutes uncovered until it's golden brown and bubbly. When your lasagna comes out of the oven, make sure to let it cool a bit before you cut into it because, well, you want to give it a little bit of time to set. You don't want to burn yourself, so trust me on that one. And then you can serve it up. It smells fantastic. Golden brown, bubbly and delicious. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to have a bite of this. It's creamy, full of vegetables, so delicious. I really think you guys are gonna love this one. Enjoy. If you like recipes like this and you want more, make sure to click like and subscribe because we have plenty more where this came from.